Oh, yay. How are you guys today? Awesome. I'd rather be outside too. Can we do the next one outside?
Wish.
Yeah. So my name's Ian, and they asked me to come and talk about my experience with Occupy and what reforms I want to see, and so I guess I'll just fill up 10 minutes with my blather, and that's going to be cool. But, so how I got started in activism and how I sort of got interested in Occupy actually goes back to something like 2004. I was an army translator, Arabic linguist, and I served in the war in Iraq. Went overseas and crossed the border second day of the war, so I actually invaded Iraq, which was kind of crazy. And after I got back to the US, I was like, oh good, I did my tour and I did my business, and now I'm good, right? So then they say, well, you're gonna have to go back to Iraq, and it's gonna be a 12-month long tour, and we're gonna extend your contract against your will. And I said, oh, but I'm a homosexual. So on the back. And I said, I am willing to go, right? But it's going to be as an openly gay soldier. If you're going to put me through the crap, like, give me something back. Well, they ended up booting me out. And at the time, that was big news because I was an Arabic translator and we were at war with Iraq. Like, that's clearly a resource lost. And so some activists got a hold of me and I ended up on Anderson Cooper, and I talked to too many reporters for so long that eventually, like, I retired from activism and I said, screw this, and I went and was in my early 20s for a little while, just kind of screwed around. Well then, a few years later, this great guy named Dan Choi pops up in the news. Has anyone ever heard of Dan Choi? Yeah, he's a good guy, and he started handcuffing himself to things and getting arrested, and I was like, wow, man, that's awesome. Like, I wish I'd have done that instead of talking to, Joe Johns on Anderson Cooper, right? So I got a hold of his phone number, and I texted him and said, my name's Ian Finkenbinder, I was a sergeant in the U.S. Army, and, look me up online, you'll see who I am, let me know if you need any help. And he calls me back, and he says, hey, do you want to get arrested on Monday? And I said, sure. So he flew me out to Washington, D.C., me and 12 other people handcuffed ourselves to the White House fence, and in protest of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, and then a month later it was repealed. Right? So that's sort of like what formed my idea of this is what activism looks like. It's direct action. It's actually making stuff happen. Well, after that, I started blogging. I actually wrote this blog for a long time called One Angry Queer. I took a year off. I lived on some people's couches, and I just wrote, and it was awesome. And so it's interesting that you touched on what you touched on, because I have been both an armchair activist, in the online world. With lots of digital petitions and things like that, and also doing direct action on the ground. So there's value to both. It's just different values for each thing, So then I heard about this thing called Occupy, and it was before it started, and I blogged about it. And I saw this poster, online, and it was this ballerina on a bull, and I was like, what that? So I blogged about it, and I sent the link to Dan Choi, and I said, what do you think this is about? And he goes, it'll never last. So then Occupy Seattle happened in Seattle. I was like, yes, because there were so many problems going on. Like, it just seemed crazy, endemic, these problems. And so I was really broke at the time, and I would walk every day from the U District, where I live, to Westlake in order to go down to Occupy Seattle and watch people get arrested and stuff. And one night I was down there, and they had erected a sukkah, which is a Jewish religious tent on the holiday of Sukkot. And there were 10 people who were defending it, and the cops arrested them all, and in the middle of it, the live streamer has her laptop. She goes, my battery's dead. And I said, I brought my laptop, so I signed on to live stream, and I became a live stream reporter then and there, and I reported what was going on to 15,000 viewers. And I've been with Occupy Seattle ever since. And that was sort of how I got started. So from there, I became a live stream reporter, and the reason why that was important to me is because it was very obvious, specifically from someone who's in new media, that the mainstream media just was not up to par. For 2 weeks, Occupy Wall Street was going on in New York, and no one was covering it. It was ridiculous. The only way you could find out news was through the blogs or through live stream. So that's how I got started, and it was really important to me because the truth, like the whole idea of Occupy right now is getting the truth out. There are really serious problems, and people are trying to trick you that it's the immigrants' fault, or it's people aren't working hard enough, or da-da-da. But really, that's not the problem. It's that the people in power, are doing bad things. So it was really important to me to get the truth out about what happened on the ground, because if you just read the MSNBC article about what happened to Occupy Wall Street, it's 12 were arrested and one police officer was injured. On the other hand, you read the blog post about the action, and you find out that the police ran out some dude over with their bike, and so many people got punched in the eye. And it's important to have the right media narrative. the true media narrative. And so I got on the social media team. I helped administrate the website, the Facebook page, which has 30,000 likes, and the Twitter. I also organized for the live stream team. And it all became part of this like unified thing for me where we need to have the truth. Like I show up to an action, you may see me at a march because we have lots of different types of things, lots of different interests that confuse some people sometimes. But so like you can see me in an action, and that doesn't mean I necessarily give a hoot about the cause. You know what I'm saying? I'm there because it's my job to make sure that the truth gets out, and that's very important to me. That's sort of how I've moved forward. What's really interesting about my experiences in Occupy is the radicalizing effect that it's had. When you say what's left, I kind of say, you know, nothing is left over. We're starting something new entirely. Because there are a lot of us who are very radicals. You know, we have lots of communists. We have a large anarchist contingent, which is pretty cool. And I found myself, because I was a reformist before. Okay, a reformist meaning someone who says, I want to work within the system in order to change it. And I do think reforms are great, for sure, right? It would be great if we reinstituted Glass-Steagall. It would be great if we repealed Citizens United. All those things would be dandy. But then there are a lot of us who are saying, but wait a minute, we don't need reforms, we need a whole different system. Like, obviously under the model that we're operating, capitalism, it's kind of a raw deal for ourselves, and we don't even know it. With the rising cost of health care, you know, the fact that minimum wage is, how much has it gone up in the past 20 years? Nothing, you know. So as we continue moving forward, these whole ideas of challenging the very way that we think about our society, that really reached me hardcore. And so, for instance, I used to do a lot of anti-Don't Ask, Don't Tell organizing. I recently published a column that has just kind of blown up. It was last week. I recently published a column that was how I was wrong about Don't Ask, Don't Tell, in which I say that perhaps allowing gays and lesbians into the army is actually supporting imperialism and war. You know, I mean, these are, whatever Occupy has done, it has definitely changed the conversation both internally and nationally. It's had me think really hard about new ideas and new ways of thinking. And I'm also learning a lot. I think once I get out of school, because I'm going to Seattle Central, and hopefully I hope to have a degree in journalism someday. Once I get out of school, you know, I'm going to need a job. At least I might be able to be a social media consultant. You know, I am getting some good skills, and you know, it's really great to work in the community. Some of the programs going on right now, everyone's heard of the May Day General Strike, right? That's coming up on May 1st. Don't go to work at school. Come down to Westlake instead. We'll have some music. It'll be cool. But after that, you know, there are also other little programs that we're doing. Like we're having community brunch program, a program that's operating in the Central District, where we're feeding people for free, and they can come and they can talk about issues, and they can learn about organizing, and they can learn how to operate within their own communities. We've also Occupy Seattle is not the only Occupy in Seattle. People have said, you know what, I don't feel like going all the way down to Westlake to focus on city-specific issues. Let's bring it to the neighborhoods. So there's an Occupy Wallingford, there's an Occupy Beacon Hill, there's an Occupy West Seattle. And that's where people in their communities can come together and decide what that community wants. And I think that's really great, is that people are starting to understand this idea of collectivism and how a community can cooperate amongst itself. Whatever, and how that can really impact the general community as a whole. And when you start thinking in those terms, that once you start from the ground up, which is once you start in your neighborhoods, and then you start thinking of the entire human race as your community. You start understanding the impact that you have on the communities around you and the communities across the ocean. I never thought of myself as a 1%er. You know, I'm not, right? I'm a member of the 99. Except, when you think about it, the United States in itself is the 1%. And so I've really started to understand that the things that we're doing here sort of resonate globally. And I think I'm going to wrap up a little bit early because I'm running out of steam. But
thank you, Ian.